Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation in Spain, day 237 of the current situation, and with home confinements and lockdowns in various countries around Europe. Here in Spain, we are still debating what exactly needs to be done in order to get the health situation under control, but more about that in a minute. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise, and thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your ongoing support. Now let's have a look at what's happening around the country. We can see from this headline here that the autonomous communities continue to extend restrictions to halt the advance of the second wave. Cantabria has confined all municipalities, while Murcia and Galicia have closed bars and restaurants. As the second wave of the coronavirus continues to spread in Spain, the country's regions are implementing restrictions in a bid to avoid their health systems from becoming overwhelmed. The latest governments to take action are Cantabria, Murcia and Galicia, who on Wednesday announced new measures ahead of a meeting of the Interterritorial Health Committee, a gathering of regional health chiefs and the Central Health Ministry. So various new restrictions being implemented by various autonomous communities around the country in order to avoid their health systems from becoming overwhelmed. And we can see here from this headline that the ICUs of 9 autonomous communities, and Ceuta and Melilla, are at extreme risk, with more than 25% of patients with COVID-19. So, as I mentioned yesterday, it's all about the pressure on hospitals in this country, and in particular ICU units. And of course, more and more restrictions are going to be implemented if the hospital situation continues to worsen. Now, as we know, the Madrid community is one of the areas in Spain with the least amount of restrictions. There's a curfew in place, of course. There are some areas in Madrid city that are confined because of the health situation there. But again, this weekend, they are going to close the borders of the Madrid community because of the Almudena long weekend. So people in the Madrid community once again not allowed to travel out of the region. The health situation in Andalusia has also been getting worse in recent times, but the president of Andalusia has ruled out a home confinement for now, but acknowledges that the closure of the hotel industry is on the table. The president of the junta has ruled out home confinement, saying that for now we are not considering it. That is a last resort, he said in an interview on a Spanish television program. He also said that they are looking to take new measures this Sunday, and if the data is negative, the measures will be more restrictive. He also said that the possibility of closing hotels, bars and restaurants is on the cards, and said that it would be very sad to have to close this type of business because they are a refuge and well-being for many families. Now, the face of the coronavirus pandemic here in Spain, Fernando Simon, on the topic of home confinements came out yesterday and said that confinement will probably not become necessary. He also referred to the confinements of other European countries and said that they are not like ours. We are not doing less than other countries, and yes, we are seeing a stabilization of transmission. So some very optimistic words again there from Mr. Simon. Now let's have a look at the health situation in Spain, looking at a map of the country and various autonomous communities. Starting with the country as a whole, we can see that the risk level is extreme around the country. The total amount of cases since the pandemic began, the accumulated incidence rate for the last 14 days sits at 527.3. 1,002 is the total amount of deaths in the last 7 days. And if we look at hospital pressure around the country, we can see that there are currently 20,281 COVID patients in hospitals, which translates to 16.35% of all hospital patients. And in ICUs, we can see that there are currently 2,802 COVID patients, which is 29.20% of all ICU beds in the country. We'll turn our attention now to Aragon. We can see that the risk level there is also extreme. We can see the total amount of cases. We can see that the accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days sits at 1,095.29. 107 deaths in the last 7 days. There are currently 1,039 COVID patients in hospitals, and there are 112 COVID patients in ICUs, which is 50.22% of all ICU beds in Aragon. Catalonia now, the risk level is also extreme. The total amount of cases there, the accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days, 742.42. 21 deaths in the last 7 days. Hospital pressure in Catalonia, we can see that there are 4,508 patients currently in hospitals with COVID, and in ICUs there are 576 COVID patients, or 41.68% of all ICU beds are occupied by COVID patients. Valencia now, the risk level there is high, total amount of cases. We can also see the accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days, 258.61, 60 deaths in the last 7 days. Hospital pressure there, we can see there are currently 1,467 COVID patients, and there are 235 COVID patients currently in ICUs, and that is 22.62% of all ICU beds in the Valencian community. And finally, we'll take a look at the Canary Islands. We can see the risk level there is medium. We can see the AI, or the accumulated incidence rate, in the last 14 days sits at 72.35. Deaths in the last 7 days from COVID, 10. Hospital pressure there, 218 patients currently hospitalized in the Canary Islands because of COVID, and there are 48 COVID patients currently in ICUs, which is 10.84% of all ICU beds. Now, as we know, the Canary Islands is the only place in Spain at the moment that doesn't have severe restrictions. There's no curfew. Tourists are still allowed to visit that part of Spain, and they're also now trying to promote the Canary Islands as a destination for digital nomads, or people that are forced to work from home. We can see here that the Canary Islands no longer only promote tourism, they're looking for 30,000 teleworkers to settle on the islands. The regional government has invested €500,000 to try to attract national and international remote workers in the medium term. So the Canary Islands, they're getting on the front foot, trying not to be so reliant on tourism and trying to attract national and international remote workers. And to be honest, I think the Canary Islands would be a very, very good destination for this type of worker. In fact, I might even look into it myself. Now, the government came out yesterday and said that they want to try and control the problem of fake news in the country. They said that they intend to evaluate the veracity of media content. The government, and through a ministerial order, intends to ensure that all information published by the media is truthful, complete and timely, and it will be the government who will report the alleged irregularities in the first instance. Under the umbrella of the fight against fake news, the government has created, under the direction of the National Security Council, a procedure to guarantee truthful information, democratic debate and pluralism in the media. The objective is to support accurate, complete and timely information from the media. Given the progress of the digital environment, adds the letter, it is necessary to establish means of operation to continuously evaluate the phenomenon of disinformation. Who will be responsible for ensuring accurate information, you ask? This will be in the hands mainly of the National Security Council, the Situation Committee, the Moncloa Secretary of State for Communication, the Permanent Commission Against Disinformation, and the competent public authorities and the private sector and society. Thus, it will be the government itself and not the Department of Cybersecurity, nor the police, nor the Civil Guard, which will first report on the alleged irregularities. As you can expect, not everybody is happy that the government has announced that they themselves are the ones that are going to try to control fake news in the country. The opposition parties are accusing the government that this will be a form of censorship, and we can see here that the government is defending its anti-fake news plan against those accusations of censorship. And the government has also come out and said that this new control of fake news is aimed at large digital platforms. So there we go. Should governments be the ones that decide which news is fake and which news is not fake? And is this a way for the government to censor any news that they don't agree with? What do you think? Now, on that note, let's have a look at some of the comments from recent videos. First one here from DC. Unemployment. Spain needs to unleash the invisible hand of the free market and cut the bureaucracy. Yeah, DC, thanks for the comment. I agree. I think Spain needs to cut back on its red tape, make it easier for people to do things, get rid of a lot of these bureaucratic processes which slow things down in this country. There's a lot of red tape when it comes to hiring and firing people. If companies decide to hire people and put them on permanent contracts and there's a downturn, it can be very difficult to fire those workers and adapt to the new situation. And that could be one of the reasons why companies, especially small companies, are reluctant to hire a lot of people. And the other point you make there about unleashing the invisible hand of the free market, it could be a solution, but I don't think it's going to happen with the government that we have at the moment. One here from Niall: I think Spanish unemployment is high because those in existing jobs are protected by having to receive a certain amount of redundancy money per year employed. The fact that people can't be laid off cheaply in a downturn discourages employers from hiring in the first place. Niall, thanks for the comment. You're right, it does discourage people from employing people. As I said in the previous comment, if you have a worker on a permanent contract here, and let's say that person has been working with you for 10, 15 years, and all of a sudden the economy goes bad and you need to fire that person, you have to fork out a lot of money. So that obviously doesn't encourage employers to hire more people. And the fact of the matter is that we live in economies where there are lots of ups and downs, especially in this country. We saw back in 2008 how the economy was destroyed, and we can see what's happening now. So having a rigid labour market doesn't really do you a lot of favours in times like these. One here from Adrian: Spanish people may have languages on their CVs, but in reality, very few can speak foreign languages fluently. Yeah, Adrian, thanks for the comment. I think the foreign language situation in Spain is improving. It has been behind other European countries for a long time, but I think the situation is getting better. I don't have any statistics to prove that, but from what I see around the place, people generally have a better command of the language than they did, say, 20 years ago. Obviously, here in Spain, we're a long way off the levels that they have in northern European countries. For example, in the Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, that type of country, people there have very advanced foreign language skills, not only in English, but they've also started to pick up other languages as well, whereas here in Spain, people are still really stuck on English. And the reasons why people haven't traditionally spoken foreign languages well in this country are a little bit difficult to pinpoint, not really clear what the exact reasons are, but I think if you look at the history of the country and the current education system, those could be two of the reasons why people have trouble to master foreign languages in this country. One here from Angela: El Mundo is not a very good newspaper. It would be better to read better quality ones such as El País, El Periódico, or La Vanguardia. Thank you for the information you give every day. Keep going. Yeah, Angela, thanks for the comment. I don't think El Mundo is a bad newspaper. I don't think it's the best newspaper, but I don't think it's the worst newspaper in the country. There's lots of newspapers nowadays, especially digital newspapers. When I first came to Spain, there was about 6 or 7 newspapers, I think, but nowadays there's lots and lots of news in Spanish online. Many online newspapers have popped up in the last 10 years or so, but El Mundo is one of those newspapers that has been around for a long time. And as we know, the newspaper you read here in Spain is normally a reflection of your political views. So if you read El País, you're on the left. If you read El Mundo, you're center right. And if you read a newspaper like ABC, you're even further to the right of the political spectrum. But I think the most important thing is to get a wide view of different points of view from different newspapers, and that's what I try to do in these videos. One here from Josh: 5 days in a row with 0 cases in Victoria. Yeah, Josh, thanks for the comment. I have seen that is the case, that Victoria has had a fairly good run with 0 cases, especially after the situation they were in a few months ago. And of course, that led to that second lockdown, and people were not very happy about that. But now, of course, politicians in Victoria are patting themselves on the back, saying that they have got COVID under control. And I heard a radio interview this morning on Victorian radio with an infectious disease expert, and she said that Victoria is a world leader in getting COVID-19 under control. So I don't know if European countries could learn something from Victoria, but the health situation in every European country at the moment seems to be out of control. And congratulations, Victoria, for getting rid of, or almost getting rid of, COVID-19. One here from Oliver: hello, I've recently moved to Spain and these videos are very useful to summarize what is happening in the news. I had a gist with my low level of Spanish, but this is a great way to have an English-speaking roundup. Don't worry about the comments either. Yeah, Oliver, thanks for the comment, and glad to see that you find the videos useful. The objective, as I have said from the beginning, is to give people living here in Spain an idea of what's happening in the country, a roundup, as you say, and seeing which things are going to affect us here in the country. And I will continue to try to put these videos out as often as possible, and I'll try not to let the comments get me down. And finally, one here from Joanne: sandals and socks, Brits, wrong country, people, puff. Yeah, Joanne, thanks for the comment, obviously referring to that Schweppes ad that we saw yesterday, where they said something like, "Dear English, we will put up with you wearing sandals with socks, but please teach us how to have dinner before 8 p.m. And what are you saying, that it isn't the Brits that wear sandals with socks when they come down here on holiday? Who is it, the Germans? If that's the case, then obviously Spaniards can't distinguish between Brits and Germans who are down here on holiday. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.